Well, it's a great thing that I can now talk about EHDEN after this great presentation from George. Because if you look at the awesome research that he's presenting, how nice would it be if we can do that on many European databases? And the EHDEN project stands for European Health Data and Evidence Network. I'm a project coordinator, and Nigel Hughes, who's sitting there, is project lead. And this project has its main aim to standardize many data sources in Europe to the Open Common Data Model. It is an IMI project, so IMI is the biggest public-private partnership out there, and that's been funded by European Union and pharmaceutical industry. And EHDEN is one of the projects under this umbrella. And there are many, many projects in IMI you see on the top right there. The EHDEN projects officially started the 1st of November. We had our kickoff in January here in Rotterdam. And it will be a project for 66 months, so it's a pretty long project. There's a large budget, about 29 million euro, half by IMI and half by FPA contribution. And what's very unique in this project is that we have a harmonization fund, which is 17 million euro in the project that we will be using for standardizing data across Europe. And I'll talk more about that, of course, later on. We had our kickoff meeting here in Rotterdam, and because we are the project coordinators, we wanted to do that on a nice ship. You see a nice picture of that on the left. And I really, really appreciated the kickoff meeting that we had, because it was not like a PowerPoint show where we presented all kind of ideas and that was it. We really had very interactive breakout sessions between the FPR group and the public partners, and we really intermingled and had very good discussions. And it was a good start for 5.5 years to go. So the EHDEN project, just like any other project, we need to have a vision and a mission. And the vision of EHDEN aspires to be the trusted observational research ecosystem to enable better health decisions, outcomes, and care. Very much in line with Odyssey, and you will see throughout my presentation that we have a very strong link with Odyssey. And the mission is really to build a large network across Europe, a federated data network, so the data stays local, we bring the tools to the data, and standardize to the Open Common Data Model to make all these nice things that George has just presented possible also in Europe at a large scale. The original call text was called EHDEN, European Health Data Network. And we changed the acronym to EHDEN. It sounds better, it's a little bit like a paradise, and it is. But also because we add the E. And the E is a very good idea from one of our partners. The E stands for evidence, and I really, really like that we add the E. The reason is that, for me, EHDEN is not a success if we have mapped 100 million or 200 million people to the Open Common Data Model. It's only a success if we are able to generate evidence with the network. So we need to demonstrate that we actively use the network to create reliable evidence. So the core is in the evidence, and even better, the core is to help the patients with that evidence. So I like to stress that. The EHDEN consortium is containing 22 different partners, so like 2 soccer teams. Will not play against each other, for sure. We play with each other. 22 partners, 11 FPA, 11 public partners. The public partners are academic centers, but also European Patient Federation, NICE, some SMEs who are very experienced in mapping Open Common Data Model, and they have some stands here as well. You can visit them there. And I think it's a very nice mix, a very nice group. We've worked together with many of these in other IMI projects, and I think that we are in a perfect position to make a change here. The EHDEN story is completely in line with what we're talking about here today. It is about that pipeline from source data to reliable evidence and all the individual steps. And we like to improve that. We like to start with what Odyssey has been doing, build on top of that, help out with the global community, but also in Europe make that very strong and have many data sources that we can utilize to create all these nice charts or images that George just shared with us. Of course, OpenCDM in the middle, no discussion about that. We'll build on that. We'll also use other tools from IMI project that we've worked in before, like EMIF, and I'll give an example of that later as well. But we really like to collaborate intensively with the global Odyssey community. So to build that ecosystem, we have to put the pieces together. And the first thing, of course, the first challenge is harmonization. So we need to have that body of data. We need to standardize many data sources in Europe. The original call tax sets 100 million patient records. Personally, I don't mind so much about that specific number, but it would be very nice if we have a very nice spread across Europe in different geographic areas. And I think the 100 million will not be the big problem here. Standardize, of course, in development with, together with Odyssey, but also very importantly, we want to create a network of small to medium enterprises across Europe that can support us in doing these mappings. And that's, I think, a unique opportunity that we have to build not only a data network, but also an SME network where companies can work together, we can learn from each other and build up a very strong ecosystem. Actually, we want to create a sustainability from day one. We want to build something that together will sustain for many, we will be able to sustain for many, many years. There's a harmonization fund, as I mentioned earlier, that can be used by data sources to get their data mapped. And they will be using the SMEs for that in that process. So we will have two different calls in EHDEN, open calls. There's an open call for data sources to apply for a grant. I'll give you more information about that in the next slide. People apply, there's an independent committee there that will judge these applications and will mainly prioritize the data sources dependent on geographic spread and also sizes. The other call is for SMEs, so small to medium enterprises, open call. And in that open call, we invite these companies to apply, give us some background on whether they have worked with health data before, maybe they already have experience with common data model, and we will be supporting them heavily in training and also certification, so there will be some tests at some point to get the certificate. The idea is that the data sources will be matched with the SMEs, so the SMEs will help them to do their mapping. The reason is that we want to make sure that it's all done following all the quality criteria that we will put in place. And of course, then the mapping cycle will start, and there will be individual steps in that process. So the open call for the data sources will be initiated before the summer, where we think about June. There will be 3 different opportunities for grants on that harmonization fund. We like to distinguish full mappings, meaning that your data is still in source, you have not any CDM yet, and you want to map that data. There's mapping extensions, which means that you have some data in the CDM, but you may want to extend it some domains or other type of data elements. And the last one, I think, is also a very interesting one, that's mapping validation. So for data sources that are already on the CDM and would like the SMEs or the experts to have a look at that, and to check whether it's following all the quality criteria that we will put in place, that's another option. The data sources that are eligible are all the EU member states, but also the H2020 associated countries. So, and it's actually quite interesting that we've been contacted by many countries, also Israel and these areas, Turkey, which is fantastic. And they can apply for this as well, according to the regulations from IMI. So why would these data sources be involved in this? And we've been working heavily in one of the work packages on value propositions. I will not go into detail on all of them. I will pick out a couple of them. Just the fact that we have financial support can be, of course, a reason to join, to try it out. But I think in the end, it should be about the scientific collaboration and being part of a very thriving academic network and community. As George pointed out, these studies are created with a lot of databases, and it would be fantastic, at least if I would have a database, I would like to join that. It's important that you will be scientific independent, so there's no push for anybody who maps their data that they need to be part of a specific study, that you're under your own control. And again, it is a federated data network, so we'll bring the data to the tool to the data. The aim is, of course, that by using the standardized analytics, we can perform studies faster without reducing quality. And And these tools are actually one of the biggest reasons that data sources joined earlier mapping efforts. So in the EMIF project, we started also with mapping data in Europe. And I always found that at the point we showed the tools and we really showed what you could do with these tools, people jumped in. Initially, they were thinking, why should I map my data in another data model? My data model is the best model in the world. Well, I've seen many, many data models. They're all different. But showing that what you can do with these tools really helps to step over that to make that last step. There are a lot of opportunities also in Odyssey and EHDEN to train personnel, so that should not be a problem either. SME call, I like to focus on that one because that's the one that's happening very quickly. Actually, the call will be opened on the 1st of April, so that's on Monday, right after the symposium. You can submit through a portal. We build a portal with an application form. That application form will be reviewed by a committee, independent committee, and then people will join as a trainee in the process. These trainings will be done using e-learning. We're building an academy for people to train in. The eligibility criteria for the call are that you need to be an SME, and that's the European definition, so less than 250 people in the company. There are some constraints on the turnover, and of course you need to be a legal business. These details are also available in the EHDEN stand, of course, and it's actually in your folder. So here, I think I'd like to spend a little bit more time on that. What's the reason to join this? Besides the fact that it's quite a hype and people are very interested in Odyssey in general, I think at the core it's also important that you are able to contribute to the health of citizens. And I think by making data more standard, we can give results quicker to the patients. And I think that should, of course, always be a reason, in my view. You get, because of this call, the opportunity to get free training and certification. So that could lead to expand your existing market and also contribute to markets that are already out there and build tools on top of the Open Common Data Model. And of course, as all the things are in Odyssey, we stimulate that those tools are open source. I think there's a real advantage for early adopters, so SMEs that jump in early on the train. Because there will be a lot of data sources mapped, for sure, and that could give you some competitive advantage. There's short-term income generation because of that, but I also think, and that's the last point I think is the most important for me, the open source community is very, very active in Odyssey, and I myself get a lot of energy in working in that open source community, and I'm also leading a working group there on patient-level prediction together with Jenna Reps. And I think building that open source software is really the way to go. And I would really stimulate these SMEs that will join to participate in that, but also to think together how we can improve tools that are already out there. So I think it's a big opportunity. You can step in, get trained, get certified, and start mapping data across Europe. The training will be done on different elements or different competences. Of course, we will train you on what EHDEN is about, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you learn everything about the Open Common Data Model, the standardized vocabularies, how to map the data, and how to implement the Odyssey tools at a site. Also very important are the fundamentals on documentation of the ETL and to assure the transparency and reproducibility, and expertise in installing tools that are out there, of course, is included as well. As I mentioned, the course material will be available in online learning platform, the EHDEN Academy. We have a poster on that, and I have one slide on it later on, which would allow you to do it at your own pace. But the final step definitely needs to be a face-to-face meeting where we will have the certification program finished by really a face-to-face meeting where we have source data and map that source data to the CDM in a session. So once you are certified as an SME, we like to offer you to become a member of the SME community. And we, like I mentioned earlier, we build a community around that. for people to work together and to train each other and to help out. There will be a catalog with certified SMEs, so you get exposure on that, and you'll get a badge. That's not the most important thing. But what is important, I think, is that you will be available for mapping in the EHDEN, from the EHDEN fund. So that's a requirement for data sources. They have to use the certified SME, so that's, I think, a big opportunity. Infrastructure. We need to build the tracks. There are a lot of tools out there from Odyssey we want to implement, tools like Arachne that allows you to do federated data analysis. So we will leverage a lot of tools from Odyssey here, but we also want to use use cases to drive these developments during the project. And there will be some examples actually later in the day of use cases in the next session. Final point I think is very interesting. We are not unique in Europe. We are part of the world. And I don't think we should do anything different here in Europe than on the other, in the other areas. So we need to make sure that we always guarantee that global interoperability, which means that we need to collaborate heavily with the US Odyssey, South Korean Odyssey, and others. So some work in progress. As I mentioned, we recently started, but we could leverage some tools from previous projects. So for example, from EMIF, we are building an EHDEN portal, and the portal will host different tools like Atlas, like Arachne, that you will see also downstairs in some of the demos. It will also host the EHDEN Academy, and it has a database catalog. So just to be clear, not a data catalog, but a database catalog. The database catalog will host all the individual data sources that we've mapped to the OMO Common Data Model. It will contain metadata, a questionnaire, but also it will have some advanced search functionality, and we start from the environment that we built in EMIF, and we work on top of that. We will improve some of the visualizations as well. So we're thinking about a landing page per data source where you can see some graphical representation of some of the counts and then some other information later on. There will be documents about each of the data sources, and also publication links will be added. The idea is to make this like a front end of all the individual tools that are already out there and things that we will develop. So we will be working also on dashboards to show, for example, drug utilization study is something that has our attention now. We like to integrate that all into one environment. EHDEN Academy is worked on quite heavily now. This is built on Moodle. For those who are aware of that, Moodle is an open source platform, again, for e-learning, and it's very, very powerful, and I love it myself. If you see what the possibilities are, you're quite amazed. So we can actually put in like the lectures, of course, the quizzes, but what's very nice is that it allows you to interact directly with the database. So you can just type in queries, we can ask you questions like, give us the parents of this specific drug or condition, and that can be tested automatically in the system. So you can really type in a query and it will give you back a red or a green answer, and can help you also to find the right answer. The other thing that we want to do in the EHDEN Academy is integrate a virtual machine, Odyssey in the Box virtual machine. And we'll use that also in our tutorials in the next 2 days. The Odyssey virtual machine actually hosts all the different tools that Odyssey has, like it has Atlas, it has an RStudio instance to query the data, it has a simulated data set in the VM. And this allows us to build up a very nice curriculum about doing all these individual steps from source data to running things like White Rabbit and Rabbit in the Hat, the ETL tools, on that box. So we want to link the Academy with the VM. So in one of the lessons, you have to start up a VM. And then after you start up the VM, we will have questions for you to answer. And we can test that then automatically here. The other building blocks is outcomes. So within EHDEN, we have ICHOM as a partner. So we will focus also a lot on that, the ICHOM standards. How can we apply the ICHOM standards on the OMO Common Data Model? Do we need to add extra data there, extra domains, maybe add some survey data fields? But also, maybe for the vocabularies, there are things that we have to change. And we are trying to incorporate all the ICHOM standards that are out there, which would allow, for example, hospitals that would map the data to the common data model to then apply these standards on top of the data model. We like to demonstrate the additive value of this whole exercise, also driven by use cases. So ICHOM and others are thinking about that at the moment. The ecosystem is crucial with respect to sustainability. We need to have both the data sources, both the SMEs, both the regulators. We have to have academia all work together and really try to move this forward. Otherwise, there will be nothing after EHDEN, and I think that would be very bad. On the other end, I'm not so worried about it. And why not? Because if you look at Odyssey, it's already sustainable. And I think that's a very big plus for us. We can build on that. So I'm very positive about this specific point. We have just a little bit about the structure of the project to end my presentation. We have, like any other IMI project, we have this kind of typical structure. What's different here is that we have the advisory board. So we have scientific advisory board, ethics, and then we have those two specific boards for data source prioritization and SME certification. Then we have 7 work packages. And because I'm not going to go in all the detail about that, I'll talk a little bit about it in the next slide, but not so much. What's key in EHDEN is that we have to build, and we have to fuel, and we have to drive the thing. So we have to build technology. We have to put things together. We have to engage data sources to get them on board, to have the data, to answer the questions. But we also need to have a lot of outreach. We need to reach out to groups so we can get use cases and really can drive the whole ecosystem and run studies to create the outcomes that we want to assess. Just a couple of words on the work package so you get an idea of the structure of the project, and I'm happy to talk to you one-to-one later if you have specific questions. We built the structure around that idea of build, fuel, and drive. So there are 3 work packages that are driving EHDEN, and those are work package 1, evidence workflow development, use cases to work out the whole pipeline in kind of agile approach where we take small steps and then try to improve the whole pipeline from source to evidence together with big data for better outcome projects. Work package 2 is about outcome-driven healthcare, so that's with ICHOM. Work package 3 is one of my personal favorites, personalized medicine work package, which is all about prediction and also risk effect estimation is also part of that. And I'm very happy that we can start from the work that we've been doing in Odyssey in the patient-level prediction working group and take that on now also in this project and extend our tool set. I'm very interested also to adding other patient data, patient types like, for example, wearable data at some point. Work package 4 is the technical implementation, so that's a very big work package. It has all the tasks of implementing the individual tools, putting them together, and improving them. Work package 5 is about getting the thing started. So that's a work package to get the SME call, to have the data source call, and have that whole organization about that happen in the next couple of years. Outreach, work package, and then project management like all of the other IMI projects have. If there, and I'm sure there will be many questions about EHDEN, so that's why we have a stand downstairs, so please come by and ask us all the questions that you want. Nigel, I put a picture of you on it, is also there, so please ask him and the others behind the stand. Thank you very much.